I watched you when you transformed that place, and I was like, as much as Lorna cannot tell you where she's going, but you see the outcome, like Lorna loves everything that has to do with the house. I don't know if it's still the same case.
It is. It totally is.
So I look up to you, man, for so many things. That's why when I talk to you, it's always about nonsense, but I always want to talk to you about the serious stuff. I don't want you to be serious to other people and then to me just talk nonsense.
For 5 hours. Nothing concrete there.
Exactly. So I just record these things and then I put them up on my YouTube and then I listen to them whenever. So it's kind of like a motivation to me.
Go get that house. For yourself. As it's always been the dream.
So the reason why I wanted you to have a conversation now, it's because you have bought a house before and then you sold the house. And now if you buy, keep it. So I want to understand first, why did you decide, after you have your own home, to go and rent? Please clear that out because I'm so confused.
What was the reason? I was not aware of what it entailed. That was number one.
Okay.
So when I found out, I then weighed to say, is it worth it? And then I gave it 4 years because I stayed where I bought for 4 years. And then as time goes by, I'm like, is it worth it? Is it not? So the weighing in my head was constant. And then eventually I felt it wasn't. And then that's ultimately the reason I sold. But the number one reason was not personal. It was more complex based. The complex that I stayed in owed. And then I was privy to the information because I became part of trustees, which I did not even know what the difference was. What is a body corporate? What is a managing agent? What is being part of the trustees? So once I got to know that type of information, then I got scared because I knew the truth. I knew the reality of the complex. And then with finding out how much it owed and what that implication would mean for me, then I just felt, selling is it. Yeah.
The reason I wanted to talk to you, it's about that actually, because the apartment things are so complicated. I want you to explain this body corporate things and how it works.
Okay.
Especially, let's say I want to buy an apartment, and how do I know, or how do I access the information in your apartment before I even start buying? How do you go about it? Like you saying you bought a house, only when you were inside you realized, fuck, there's so much. So for someone who doesn't have access to body corporate and who doesn't know the financials, how then do I know when I buy a house, okay, these are the ways you can go around it? How do I know when I'm safe and when I'm not?
Okay, that's me. I'll buy again. So when I buy again, the things I will first look for is number one, location. Location being, I think one big problem there as well, load shedding happens very in South Africa. But there, because it was an old area, you don't need to mention the area. Okay, it was large. So it's quite an old area. And then I get to find out there, besides load shedding, there's even then a problem of a tripping of some electrical something.
Okay.
So now, on top of load shedding, which happens, there was a time it was regular, there would be days, once a week, I'd experience load shedding. And then sometimes it's a trip, sometimes it's cables stolen, sometimes it's load shedding. So it was a combination of every time I come home, I'd like hold my breath. Oh, do I have electricity today? Do I not? So that was a frustration. So number one, I would look at location, look how old it is, how new it is. Somebody even mentioned going to the police station and finding out the crime in the area. Just the stats. I think I'll do that the next time. Number three, I'd also, still with location, look what's around. because when you've got, for example, where I stay now, we don't experience load shedding at all. So when I inquired, I found out it's because there's a hospital nearby. There's a Gautrain nearby. So those things you need to consider just for your sanity, nothing major.
Okay.
Yeah, just nothing major. So it's things like that. How close to amenities you are, it also helps because, well, it's more expensive, but just the feel of where you stay, the contribution of where you are location-wise, the deterioration of the complex, how up to date it's kept, and stuff, things like that out of your control as a buyer. Okay. You must really be aware of. There's many other things, but yeah, I think that's where I'd start with the location.
You were lucky to be in the body corporate. I hope you've learned a lot inside there. I don't know how much you've learned. In terms of power, how much power does a body corporate has over owners?
Okay, number one, I got to know, which I didn't know, there's a difference between a body corporate and the trustees and the managing agent.
Yeah.
Not so complicated at all. It's just it needs you to know.
Okay.
So the body corporate is everybody in the complex that owns. So let's say there's 40 units. Every owner is part of the body corporate. Okay. Hence, in the annual general meeting where everything is discussed, only happens once. Everybody has to be there to vote in, and then the body corporate will, which is everybody now, will then nominate a managing agent. I don't know how that process happens because when I moved in, it was already in place. Yeah. Yes. And then the managing agent will have this annual general meeting, and then in the annual general meeting, there'll be nominations for trustees. Okay. So anybody now in the body corporate would nominate one of the body corporate people, the owners of the complex, and then they will then nominate, and the nomination will go through. But unfortunately with mine, I think I stayed with, including myself, who were lazy. Nobody nominated anybody. Nobody nominated themselves. Then the managing agent now had to ask some of us, do you want to be? So they explain what it's about, and you think, it's a lot of work. But eventually I was like, let me try this out. So that's how I got to be. I was not nominated. I did not nominate myself. So I think it's also important when you own to want to be part of the complex and just to understand the nitty-gritties of it all. So yeah, just not to lose myself with the question you asked about. So what's the major difference? So that's that. And then the difference then, the body corporate, yes, will say, we talk about the budget of the complex. This is how much it costs to pay the security, the garden, or whatever else happens, the security. Yes. Now, what the trustees are, the main purpose is that they then speak for because the body corporate is 40 people. Now you need to make quick decisions, like everyday decisions. You then nominate the 7 people out of the 40 to now make decisions. So the trustees now are the people who can even override the decisions that are taken by the body corporate if they are quick. Let's talk about finances of the increase of the levies. Okay. If the managing agent comes and says, listen, this is how much it costs, but this has gone up because of COVID or Corona, we suggest that now levies go up 2%. The trustees will then decide. If they decide yes, then the body corporate then will then be called, and then they'll be let know this is what the trustees thing is. If somebody wants to build there's complexes where you build walls and gates and whatever, you don't have to call the whole 40 people. Okay. You just talk to the 7. Listen, unit 7 wants to build a wall 3 meters long. If the trustees allow, the wall is built. It's not necessary that everybody must know now. Unit 13 asked.
Let's talk about body corporate and the municipality. How does the two work? Like, who pays what in terms of the bills, like the waters and whatnot?
Okay, I'll talk about my one complex. I don't know how others do. My one, the water was one bill. One bill. It was 43 units in total. One bill for the name of the complex. Yes. So then the amount would come end of the month. If it's 12,000, divided equally between the 43 units. So whether you are 1 or 7 or 14,
isn't that unfair?
Well, you buy into it. That's the things you must know.
Okay.
You know, then I am sure somewhere you could even ask, there are complexes that is built per unit. For example, where I stay now, renting,
okay,
mine is built per floor. See,
floor.
There's a difference now.
Oh, so now it means if I'm looking to buy an apartment,
Yeah,
those are the things I need to find out.
You need to ask.
How does the water come through and whatnot, and how they divide the stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember I paid $350 for water. It was even more than my electricity, and I stayed alone. And I'd be like, how does water cost more than electricity?
So now, who's responsible for this? Is the board corporate or you?
The managing agent.
The managing agent. So now, when they doing this payment, they paying for the whole block or each block? How does it work?
The whole complex.
The whole complex. Yeah. So there is no way you can have an apartment in all municipality, basically.
Wow. you actually owe them.
Oh.
Because number one, the worst I found out in my experience, when you move into a complex and you buy into it, you inherit the debt. Remember? No, that was a shocker of note for me. The complex was built in however long, let's say year 2005. So people have bought, moved out, sold, moved out. Now within the 43 people, there are people who don't pay their levies. Now if the complex expenses those are example, the security at the gate, the cleaning of the gardens, the what's this thing, electric wiring. It's separate. It was separate for us with the security, electric wiring. What else was? Okay, let me just mention those three. So now there's a certain amount. Let's say per month it costs 80,000. Okay, 50,000 to take care of your complex altogether. These things that are monthly payments, plus the water, plus the electricity. To collect the levies from all the unit owners, it is gonna be 60,000.
Okay.
So they would pay 50,000 and they'd be left with 10,000 and they'd go to reserves. Now 10 people are not paying out of the 43. Now instead of 60,000, they get 40,000. Already they are short of 10,000 to pay the monthly bill, and they don't have anything to put in reserves as well. Now in that 40,000, that 10,000 that is excess that they owe, it will move over to next month. Now the next month, 11 people don't pay. However, and then it accumulates like that over the years. So you can owe.
So now, this is scary. Yeah. So now,
and then and whoever buys into the complex, if they come in and there's a shortage accumulated of 150, you are then part of owing that 150, even though you just moved in yesterday. When you bought yesterday, when you move in, you are there, you owe it.
So now, Lona, how do I know this when I'm still looking to buy? How do I know? How much do I find in terms of information? Because I don't know if an apartment is owing, I don't know if they can be able to expose me to that.
Yeah, I found out later as well. You can ask the corporate.
So you basically buy and you find out after you have signed
that you owe. But it's I call it first-time buyer negligence.
Okay, now
you don't know.
Now I want to ask this. Now, what happens to these apartments that we're not paying? When they cover up, they're not paying, then what? When they pay now, then what? What happens?
Well, in my experience, again, one unit got sold, and they owed.
So now, if they're selling the unit, don't they?
Then they pay back.
Okay.
But now they owed roughly, I think it was 150,000. So you can imagine how much levies these people haven't paid if levies are like 1.8. So there's lawyer charges, there's late charges, there's levies. So I know it was around, let's say 120, not 150. When they pay it eventually, imagine how much lawyer fees, because lawyers you pay up front. The lawyers that they have to pay as a complex, they take from the money of the people that are actually paying. So now I'm not trying to make this the worst that can happen. This is my experience. It can be lighter for someone else.
Yeah.
But this is me. No, when they pay, they take from this money that's not enough, the 40,000 that's coming in, and then they have to pay these lawyers, which are quite expensive. Now, when this person pays back, already you're owing. Maybe other people now have started not paying. And then now it comes, it just, I feel like it accumulates over time if the people in the complex are just not doing things the right way, the owners, the payers of the levies. So it did help, I will say, because I think they paid the 140, but it went into a ditch that was already, a lot was happening.
So now, I'm just trying to understand this. There is no law or there is no rule that is created by the body corporate with the trustees that says if a certain apartment hasn't paid up until this March, something happens. There's no such thing. So that they don't go deeper into depth. So there's no such thing. Once you owe up until 40 grand, it's either we sell this house or you make a plan. There's no such thing. So that we avoid having debt at the end of the day.
Again, I'm speaking from a personal point. I'm not saying, I don't know the law.
Okay.
But what I understood is, number one, the body corporate does not own the flat. The flat is owned by the bank. So now the bank is another entity, very separate from this. So it's the one that needs to decide, am I selling, am I not? It's not the body corporate or the managing agent that's going to go and say, listen, unit 13, we don't like how you're doing things, let's sell it. That's number one. Number two is, even previously, I hear that complexes used to switch off electricity and water. And then the municipality came in and said, you don't own the electricity. You don't own the water. It is mine. I'm the one to decide when to switch off the electricity, when to switch off the water. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's even unlawful to switch off somebody's electricity or water. It's not the complex. So now there's the biggest problem. And then even the law still comes in, because people, I think, were evicted in shady ways or whatever. It now stands for the consumer rather than the complex. So there's a long route, I think, of evicting people.
Okay, I want to understand this because I always have my own understanding of things. In my way of preferences, I always prefer smaller flats than bigger flats. Would you say there's a difference? I don't like crowded flats, like too much flats. I like the minimum.
I used to think the same, you know. And when I was looking first time buying, I was like, the less people, the less trouble.
Okay.
I did